Next. Inside the world's toughest prisons.
This is the biggest prison in the world, designed to hold up to 40,000 inmates.
Wow.
It's a brand new high-security fortress. The inmates are under constant observation, inside and outside. Up to 100 prisoners live in cramped-up cells, with no privacy. There's no going out, no fresh...
100 prisoners, one cell, one toilet? That's gotta be cap. I'd rather them give me like a trough I could poop in. One toilet. Sorry for the interruption. Just wanted to show you guys my cool new dragon. His name's Slime Fang. He's from outer space. Just kidding. It's a PNG. It's not actually. I know I fooled some of you guys. It's just a picture of a dragon. I wish I had one. But you can with Dragon City! Dragon City's a game where you can collect, hatch, evolve, and battle over 1,000 different dragons. You bring your best dragons to battle to showcase your power over other players. You can even breed your dragons together to create whatever combo you desire. You can also join alliances with other players, as there are over 450 million installs of Dragon City. That is more than the population of the United States. You can even get a Darman dragon! Oh my, no way! You can also embark on a bunch of quests finding mythical creatures and ancient legends. If you want to check out Dragon City, click the link in the description or scan the QR code and you get 15,000 food, 30,000 gold, and a rare space being dragon to get you started. Thank you to Dragon City for sponsoring this video. Let's get back into it.
There's no going out, no fresh...
Somebody said I'm easily escaping that. Do y'all think you could escape prison? No, dude. I think I could maybe like hop a fence. But then they'd probably just tase my ass or shoot me, and then I'd just be right back in.
Air and no visits. This prison is located in El Salvador. For decades, the country has been terrorized by so-called maras, competing street gangs. It was notoriously one of the world's most dangerous places. Its murder rate has long been the highest on the globe. Then, its people elected a new president. Nayib Bukele went to war against the country's gangs. His government imprisoned 2% of the country's adult population. Many here, never to see their families again, never to be released back into society. El Salvador is much safer now, in some ways. Bukele is immensely popular as a result, but up to 1 in 3 prisoners is said to be innocent. In El Salvador,
1 in 3? So they're just getting thrown in prison if, like, they oppose him?
Might have accidentally sacrificed its democracy in its fight against the maras.
El Salvador's not safe. I'm assuming he meant it's safer than it used to be.
This is Juan, a fictional character we base on real reports and material from the mega prison. He is 15 years old, tattooed, his parents are very poor, and abandoned him when he was 9. Then he joined the Barrio 18, a major Mara gang. Now Juan is on a prisoner transport to the southeast with other suspected gang members. Three years earlier, Nayib Bukele became president of El Salvador. He's much younger than your average politician. He knows how to use social media and quickly rose to power.
7 million followers.
Fighting the maras dominated his political career. The gangs have their origins in U.S. cities like Los Angeles. After the young migrants were deported in the early 90s, they took control of the streets back in Central America. They've been terrorizing El Salvador for decades. Extortion, arms trafficking, and drug dealing. Maras rule entire communities and districts. They often recruit orphans and leave children in poverty with no choice. Join or die. During gang
join or die. So if you don't join the gang, they just fucking kill your ass. You can't be like, no, I'm gonna try and get a college education. I'm gonna try and fucking I'm gonna try and not, deal drugs and kill people. Move out, bro. It's not that easy to just move. Like if you live in a country where they're controlling, your city and like a majority of the areas, and you're like dirt poor with no parents, you can't just go, I'm just gonna hike to a different fucking area.
Bystanders are often caught between the fronts on the street. The maras have attacked and set fire to buses on several occasions, even with innocent civilians inside them. In 2015, wow. 18 people were murdered every day. El Salvador...
18 people were murdered every day in El Salvador. What is their fucking population? 6 million. How many people are murdered in the U.S. every day? If you look at a crime clock, there's a murder in the U.S. every 30 minutes. There's no way. Every 30 minutes? That can't be true. How many people were murdered in the U.S. in 2022? Because that'll be like a different statistic. 2,197. Okay, yeah, what the fuck is that stupid-ass statistic I just read? Murder every 30 minutes? I believe it. Bro, everybody would be dead. A murder every 30 minutes. You'd be seeing people fucking left and right die, just like casually.
El Salvador has a population of over just 6 million, which equated to over 100 murders per 100,000 inhabitants. A sad global record.
Damn,
As mayor of the capital,
the
San
US.
Salvador, Bukele used mild means to fight this violence. Youth centers, streetlights, infrastructure, and education helped. Many voters like that. Now as president, he's changing his strategy. He wants to rule with an iron fist. At the beginning of his first term in office, the murder rate in El Salvador actually falls. But it also fell before that, and there are considerable doubts as to whether this was really due to his security politics. Also, Bukele is said to cooperate with the gangs. The Maras are supposed to keep a low profile and reduce the murder rate. In exchange, Bukele promises benefits for imprisoned gang members. The gangs seem to have agreed and the violence decreases. Bukele denies any such deal has been made. Either way, in 2021, the population rewards Bukele and his party with a majority in parliament, and with more power. On the 22nd of March, 2022, the government under Bukele declares a state of emergency. The reason is a wave of murders by the Maras. 10 days earlier, over 60 people fell victim to the brutal gangs in a single day. It seems like they stepped down.
60 people getting murdered in one day in one city is nuts. Dude, and they're dealing with the fucking gangs. There's a lot of countries that do
From
that,
the supposed deal they had with Bukele. The state of emergency restricts freedom of assembly and freedom of the press. Anyone can be detained for 15 days without a warrant. The police had to meet strict arrest quotas. During the 15 days in police custody, it is decided whether somebody will remain in custody for up to 2 years as pretrial detention. Because of the 15 days of custody and thousands of arrested people...
Pre-trial? Wait, you can get thrown in prison for 2 fucking years and they haven't even determined whether or not you're guilty?
Trials often decide on this pretrial detention. The judges decide the fate of up to 900 people at a time. Sometimes the judges are masked and remain anonymous.
Wow. So they can't fucking find out who they are? They just determine if 900 people are guilty or not in one day?
Who ends up in pretrial detention usually spends more than a year in prison. The country's prisons became completely overcrowded.
Dude, that's bad when they're like that. I feel like every overcrowded prison does this. I don't know if it's like a roll call or something, but they're always like shirtless, leaning on top of each other. This is like thousands of people.
Some host 3 times the amount of prisoners they were built for. The conditions are brutal. Guards torture and most likely sometimes kill inmates. In the first year of the state of emergency alone, there are over 150 deaths in the prisons. Dead bodies are reportedly disposed of in mass graves. Relatives not informed of the deaths.
And you know what's shitty, too? Is when you're in a bad prison like that, this is the U.S. or other countries, this is just whatever. If you're in a shitty prison and you're not like a bad person, it'll make you a bad person. Because if you're a good guy, you're gonna get taken advantage of, and then you're gonna die. You're either gonna die, you're gonna be somebody's bitch, right? So when you're in that scenario, like especially in an overcrowded prison like this, where the guards can actually like fucking torture you, if you don't get on their side by doing like shit for them, or like, you know, being a part of a gang, or fucking doing fucked up shit and like hurting people, you're fucked. So you get thrown in here, you might be a normal like outstanding citizen, and then by the time you leave, you're like a fucking heartless asshole because you're just accustomed to like the life that you lived there to live, right? Like you're only used to doing that to survive. If you go to prison when you're fucking 18 and you get out when you're 28 and you've learned nothing, you're not going to get a job. You're not going to be able to do anything. You're only going to know what you knew there, right? Unless you have a prison that gives you the facilities to be a better person and you actually choose to use them.
To make tough subjects such as this one accessible through animation. That wouldn't be possible without our sponsor.
Ooh, I'm skipping this. I'm sorry.
To free up the regular prisons and to house convicted gang members, this new mega prison is built in 2023. Gang members have officially been classified as terrorists since 2015.
Wow.
Accordingly, the prison is called Center for the Confinement of Terrorism.
So what is it? It's only for gang members. So there's going to be 40,000 people there, but they're all just from different gangs. I feel like that's going to fucking cause an even bigger problem. Like, for the people that aren't going to this prison, yeah, the prison you're in might be better now because you're not around gang members that might influence you to join a gang. But dude, this is going to start like a fucking societal hierarchy. 40,000 fucking people? That's bigger than some cities.
Or CECOT for short. Juan arrives there now. After a good hour, the bus reaches a massive complex, surrounded by a 2-kilometer long and 11-meter high wall. It is supposed to be able to withstand car bombs. Hundreds of soldiers from the surrounding barracks can be called up to CECOT within minutes. After the gate opens, Juan drives past high fences, watchtowers, and huge halls. The bus comes to a halt again in front of one of them. Juan has to hand over all his possessions and get x-rayed. He is given a white t-shirt and trousers. His head gets shaved. Then Juan is taken to his cell. He shares it with around 90 other prisoners. This 4-story metal shelf is his only place to sit. He can use his towel as a pillow. He has to sleep on it at night, if he can. The light in the hall is on 24/7, and it is always bright as day. Juan quickly loses all sense of time.
Oh my god, dude, that's like fucking, that's literally torture. You're gonna fucking lose your mind in like a week.
Windows, he can't look outside.
Do they never get to go outside either?
Let alone go outside. In contrast to many other prisons, there is simply no outdoor area for inmates. Escape is utterly impossible. The complex is protected by 7 security rings. From the cells to high electric fences, 19 watchtowers, and several walls, there is gravel on the paths so that no one can move around unnoticed. Some inmates can speak to their lawyers, but only by video call. There is a special room just for that. Juan only leaves his cell to work in the workshop every day, or to take part in mandatory joint sports sessions in the middle of the hall, always under strict surveillance by security guards armed to the teeth. They watch the prisoners from every angle. There is no privacy. Juan shares 2 large wash basins and toilets with his cellmates. The gym and canteen—
Oh my god, it is 2 toilets for like 400 fucking people. Bro, what do you do? What do you do if like fucking 30 of them have to take a shit at once? You just fucking wait? I'm taking fucking 20-minute poops. I do not take quick shits. I would not be able to fucking do that.
Are only for prison employees. Prisoners eat in their cells. So it's a real highlight when Mexican YouTuber Luisito Comunica comes by with his camera crew. Similarly, when Lethal Crisis gets to film there.
Dude, this literally just looks like a massive fucking warehouse. And they're just like shoved into one of the, like, each cell is literally 400 fucking people. It's not like, this is nothing like a regular U.S. prison. I don't even know, are there U.S. prisons that house multiple people? I know there's ones that are more lax where it's kind of like dormitories and you could be in like a big group, but those are for like lower level criminals. This is just everybody just lumped into a fucking 4-story bunk bed.
You can find both videos in our description. They have English subtitles. Some inmates may try to send a message to the outside world while being filmed. Anyone who's caught doing that or causes disturbance is put in a solitary cell. These are concrete bunkers with
What? So if they speak out about... Dude, I know these guys are gang members, but at the end of the day, they're humans. Like, some of them are probably gang members, but they never, like, killed anybody. They were probably just drug dealers. And, I mean, it's still bad, but it's like... Dude, if they talk about, like, the injustices they receive, they get thrown in solitary confinement in the pitch black. They lose all of their rights.
Water basin, a toilet, a simple concrete bench. There is no lighting in these cells. It is pitch black. Many prisoners will spend the rest of their lives in these conditions.
Wow,
Prison
man.
sentences in CECOT are set to last from 20 to over 1,000 years.
Oh
The
my
inmates
God.
are cut off from the outside world, their families and friends. There are no phone calls to CECOT and no visits. Some will never see their loved ones again. Juan is expected to be released from CECOT after 15 years. That is the maximum sentence for 15-year-olds. 16 and 17-year-olds can serve up to 30 years. What plans are there for him when he gets out of prison? None. Rehabilitation is not planned.
When he's gonna have the mind of a fucking high schooler, dude. They're not teaching him shit.
Human rights groups such as Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and Cristo Sol criticize CECOT harshly. Experts cast doubt if the clampdown can solve the country's problems long term.
Containing people is a fairly good temporary solution. It's something that can happen fairly quickly with not a ton of money, and it's an investment to really expand rehabilitation programs and to look at preventative strategies.
Ashley Battistini is a professor at Swinburne University of Technology in Melbourne. She works primarily on new intervention strategies.
If you were told what they did to be in there, you would be like, never mind. So think about how you deem someone human. Are you watching the video? There are people in there that are murderers, but there are also people in there that are just a part of a gang and they deal drugs. And yes, their fellow gang members might be murderers, but they themselves might not be a murderer. They might be a guy that just sells crack, and now he's in prison for fucking 60 years and has zero rights. Yes, he was a bad person for selling crack, but if he's not a fucking murderer, I don't think he should have to have zero potentiality for rehabilitation. We're just gonna throw him in a cell of 400 people and fucking beat and kill them. And whenever they talk about how they live in a shitty situation and how they're being tortured, we're gonna throw them in a dark room and they have to sit in there for a month. Like, dude, that's literally like a fucking, that's the equivalent of a fucking camp, man. Like, they're torturing them.
For high risk.
Yes, some of those guys probably, are horrible people. But some of them are probably, they committed a crime and they got to serve 5 years there. But now when they're out, they're gonna be shitty people because of the situation they're being put in. I'm just saying, just because somebody's in prison doesn't mean they're a fucking terrible human being. People can change. And a lot of people do. But if you don't give them potentiality to change and you put them in a situation where they're more likely to be a bad person than a good person, they will get worse. That's just basic psychology.
Populations. According to her, CCOT only treats the symptoms of violence. Sooner or later, the violence could return in the same way, or worse.
If you treat people like trash, you're really going to get trash behavior in return. People
if you treat people like shit, you're going to get shit.
Motivated to change when they are treated poorly and when they're not given opportunities to grow and develop. And so even though, again, it's doing what it's intended to do by containing this behavior, pulling these individuals off the streets, and you're seeing reductions in crime as a result of it, in the long term, it's really not going to be of benefit to society or to these individuals to simply contain them without any goal of changing what is keeping them in that criminal lifestyle.
But how should gang violence be combated?
It's also going to need thought around preventative strategies and policy changes that, again, are causing people to go down this pathway in the first place. So, it's worth taking a look at what's going on in communities, with the economy. What is it that is driving people to enter these gangs and to keep these gangs so active and involved in the first place?
According to Socorro Jurídico Humanitario, almost 1/3 of all prisoners in El Salvador are most likely innocent. Many were imprisoned based on a mass trial in front of a masked judge after they were arrested without a warrant. The government is aware that thousands of...
Oh, but they're not human. Oh, but they're not human. Oh, but every single person, all 40,000 people here, whatever fucking chatter said that shit. A third of the guys here didn't even fucking do anything. They just were told, oh yeah, you're a part of a gang. We're gonna fucking send you to a terrorist prison.
Innocent people are in prison. The government claims that 8,000 people have already been released. About twice as many innocent people are likely still detained. Police had explicit orders to make arrests, no matter who they were really arresting.
Porque hemos metido gente sin haber cometido ningún delito, sino que hay muchos casos solo por el simple hecho de ser jóvenes. Las patrullas tenían que detener cierta cantidad de gente diaria para que la suma de detenidos fuera aumentando, ¿va? Y así decir de que si no deteníamos a 20 personas, no podíamos regresar a la base.
Bro, so they have to if they have to arrest 20 people a day, they'll just go and fucking arrest random people on the side of the fucking street and just go, hey, you look like you'd commit a crime in a few years. Looks like you're gonna spend 10 years in prison.
O sea, y allí fue que allí agarramos a cualquiera que hallábamos en la calle, ¿verdad?
Poverty is a big factor that drives people into the arms of the gangs. During Bukele's last term of office, extreme poverty in El Salvador has doubled.
Dude, they're just making people criminals, too, because I would be livid. Imagine if you were, like, 15 and you got arrested when you were just chilling on the side of the road, doing nothing. They send you to prison for 10 years. You're going to want to kill them. You're going to want to kill them. Like, genuinely, you're going to get out of prison, and you're going to be 25, and you're going to go, I'm going to fucking find that guy.
At the same time, poor people were particularly affected by the wave of arrests. They are often unable to afford legal assistance.
And even if you're not a part of a gang, then you're going to fucking join one. Because now you need to fucking live.
Nonetheless, many people of El Salvador view all of this as an incredible success story for Bukele. Over 70,000 arrests since the beginning of the state of emergency, opening the largest prison in the world, a historically low murder rate. According to the government, just under 500 murders in 2022 and only 154 murders in 2023. El Salvador went from one of the most violent countries in the world to one of the safest in Latin America. So Bukele was re-elected as
but you could get fucking arrested for walking on the side of the street. Fuck that shit. I'm not going there. Oh my God. You're one of the safest. Don't be out on the road when the police haven't hit their quota, though. Make sure to walk out in the mornings when it's past 3 p.m. Go home. Otherwise, they're going to fucking arrest you.
President in February of this year.
Do they still have the quotas?
Margin.
They don't do it anymore? When did they do it, though? Because they said it was while he's been in office, after COVID.
The Constitution did not actually allow him to be re-elected, so he had it changed. Just one of many erosions of El Salvador's democracy. Already in 2020, he had marched into parliament with armed soldiers to influence a vote. Freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, and freedom of the press have been restricted for over 2 consecutive years now.
I think they still do it. I don't
While
know.
reading up on this topic, we found this quote in The Guardian. Bukele is highly undemocratic, highly abusive, and highly popular. For some, it's hard to accept that these 3 things can coexist. Bukele jokingly called himself the world's coolest dictator on Twitter a few years back.
Oof. This is Norway we're talking about. Its crime was low even before it started politics, but El Salvador literally had gangsters to make armies. Norway is rich and only has to accommodate like a few thousand prisoners at most. But yeah, that's why a lot of it's not even just Norway. Nordic prisons in general are usually more luxurious than other prisons. Doesn't have the resources and also too high of a crime rate to not handle this in extreme manner. Without extreme actions, their country would have only gone down worse. I can understand this. However, you could have extreme arrests and they could arrest a lot of people, but still have a decent legislation process, right? You could crack down on crime and start detaining hundreds of people. And yeah, keep that in place where you don't need, to prove whether or not they're, guilty before you detain them. But afterwards, don't fucking throw them in a 900-person trial and just get them fucking convicted for something they didn't even do. All right. I gotta piss again, and then we're hopping into the next video. Wanted to give one last shout out to Dragon City. Check the link in the description. Download Dragon City today, and with that link, you will get a bunch of free loot, free food, and a free dragon to start off your journey. Thank you to Dragon City for sponsoring this video. I'll see y'all in the next one.